Good evening. This is Kelvin Simmons, retired probation and parole officer, retired U.S. Navy Chief Petty Officer, and retired adjunct college professor of criminal justice. I'm going to do a short topic here today with the title, Crime and Deterrence. Trust them and they will rob you. Not necessarily rob you blind, but they will rob you. I'll give a short definition on the word deterrence. And before I read it, I'll make a statement. Deterrence is a word that if you are a college student in the field of crime or law enforcement, criminal justice, then you're going to come across that word, because that's what you try to do when you try to stop people from committing crimes. You try to deter them. So here's the short definition. Discouraging an action or event through or by instilling doubt or fear as to the consequences. What that definition intends to tell you is that there's an effort to cause you to give thought before you commit the crime by considering the consequences. In other words, jail, probation, embarrassment in front of your friends and family. So here we go. Trusting and understanding. If you are a trusting and understanding person, then you are probably one of those individuals who will allow the fox into the hen house, thinking that since the fox is trustworthy, you have no problem of the chicken count coming up as it should. But what you will learn if you take that stance, that fox will not harm those chickens, you have taken a terrible step. Because as people go, we have a knack for taking advantage of a situation when an opportunity arises. And many times we fail to consider the consequences. Example, we might not think of our act or actions as a crime. We might think that we're just borrowing that item from that other person who it belongs to, with the full intent of returning it, when in reality it is a crime of theft with consequences that are put in place by lawmakers to deter you or me from committing that particular act. How about this one? Family members. Sometimes family members get into a position in life where they're not, let's say they have difficulty managing their financial affairs. So the court might appoint someone to take care of their finances for them. But in some cases, the person's closest family member, maybe a child, a daughter, a son, a grandson, a granddaughter, who volunteers to place their name on your checking account, on all of your financial activities. They might even go as far as get the power of attorney. Well, now you're trusting one person to take care of your affairs. My recommendation, make sure there is someone else who is available to verify that the actions taken by that person who is in charge of your financial affairs is in fact taking care of your financial affairs in your best interest. Otherwise, that person will be robbing you, and you may not know it until your account has been emptied. I have a note here. See Exhibit B. Exhibit B. Exhibit B is an example of what the fox or a person will do when deterrence is not in place, or they don't even consider it. In other words, some instances, or many instances in life, you as a business owner or the owner of certain properties need to place certain things in place that keeps the person from just taking them. You want to deter them, not just them having the thought of possibly going to jail or being placed on probation. So here's a recent example. December 5th, 2025. A Largo accountant. This was reported by WFLA News Channel 8. She embezzled more than $500,000 from her employer. Well, to me, this is an example of you placing the fox in the hen house. She was a close friend of the owner of the business. They were so close that they did things away from the job, as friends do. So what happened? The business owner trusted that individual who turned out not to be trustworthy. Remember, you want to deal with people who are trustworthy. Then you don't even have to trust them. You can do what you're supposed to do, and that is make sure you have checks and balances in place to make sure that that person cannot take advantage of you or your business and basically bankrupt you in some instances. So I have some examples of how you can prevent that fox from eating the chickens. Well, as far as the fox is concerned, don't put him in there. I mean, he just can't help it unless you hypnotize him and tell him he likes rabbits or something. But otherwise, I think the fox is going to eat at least one chicken. So you can have audits. You should have at least one audit per year. Yes, they are expensive, but they're not as expensive as someone embezzling more than $500,000 of your assets, your cash. So make sure you have audits done. The audits will generally, discover inconsistencies or problems with your business accounts. And I can tell you that it works because I actually worked. Oh yeah, I guess I've done many things in my life. I have an accounting degree, and one of my side jobs was doing some work for a local CPA firm, and that entailed helping with some audits. Here's another one. Don't have one person in charge of your finances. You need at least one other person. So if that one person decides they're going to rob you or steal your assets, they'll have to get it past the other worker, the other employee. Never have just one person in charge of all of your finances. And I'll give you a first-hand example of that. I am the current treasurer of the Tampa Bay Chief Petty Officers Association, and I do a monthly report. But what I also do is I make sure, yes, I make sure that someone else has records, has copies of the records, that someone else is able to check all of our finances on a monthly basis. But then again, I guess I could be that fox, right? I could run off with all the goods. But therein lies the situation. I just happen to be a trustworthy person. See, you want a trustworthy person, but you still want to have checks and balances in place. So our association does an audit. I'll go ahead and tell you that. It does an audit. But you still need trustworthy people, because if you have trustworthy people, the audits will not show irregularities. So I'm about through with that. I wanted to make this a extremely short video. But I'll share this with you. There was one time I was working with the CPA firm, and I was in the position where they wanted me to set the books back in order. What had happened was the bookkeeper had embezzled. And then when she got caught, the person in charge trusted her so much, he did not terminate her employment. He didn't terminate her. He allowed her to stay there. And what did she do? She embezzled more money. To me, she embezzled more so she could afford a private attorney. But my job was to put the books back in order. And one of the things I ended up doing, I only did it one time. I was in the position where I had to count these thousands of dollars. And at that time, I wanted an SUV. That was when SUVs was a big deal. Now just about everybody has them who can afford to pay for them. But I was counting this cash, and the fox back there was thinking, that's enough to buy the SUV. But then me, not necessarily because I was so trustworthy, but because of deterrence, I decided, do I want to lose my job? I'm talking about my probation and parole job. Do I want to be arrested? Do I want to go to jail? Do I want to do the prison time? Do I want to have a probation officer bossing me around? Well, the answer to all of those questions was no. So, deterrence. There's more to it. I taught criminology courses, criminal justice, law enforcement, and the word deterrence comes up quite a bit in the data, the data that concerns what stops people from committing crimes, why people commit a crime just because the opportunity is there, without considering the consequences. So I thank you for listening, watching this video, and at this time I want to ask you to give me a like and a subscribe if you can, and go on Amazon and check out my book, Freedom or Jail: Experiences of a Career Probation and Parole Officer. I think you will like what's in the book. It's some interesting stuff from a career probation and parole officer. Thank you.